I'm Toby Moffett, and here at Edelman, I'm the link between Edelman and a lobbying group called the PLM Group, which is one of the most successful lobbying firms in Washington, D.C. I'm also a former member of Congress from Connecticut.
I'm Tony Blankley, Executive Vice President for Global Public Affairs at Edelman, also a columnist, chat on TV about politics. No, the fascinating thing is that each of the Republican candidates have big problems with the Republican electorate, and we're seeing them. Giuliani's slipping. Yeah. Romney is slipping somewhat against the evangelical vote. Huckabee is picking
Thompson's
up.
Gone, isn't he?
Thompson was
4%
never there.
I
mean, Thompson, most remarkable campaign. He knew going in that the argument against him was he was lazy and he wasn't going to work hard. You would have thought.
So he's been lazy and he hasn't worked.
You would have thought that knowing that that's a rub against you, you would explode out of the blocks. You would do 10 events a day, work 18 hours a day, at least for the first week. But instead, he sort of wandered around the landscape.
Well, we have just the opposite on our side, on the Democratic side. We love all of our candidates. You guys are having problems because
the polling doesn't
you
quite
don't like
suggest
a lot
that.
of yours. No, but it's true, though. I mean, I think generally, at least what I've seen on the ground in Iowa and New Hampshire, is that people, first of all, I hope you won't take offense at this, our people feel like they're picking the next president of the United States.
Well, they might
in
be.
Iowa and New Hampshire. And they might well be.
There's a 57%
so,
chance
there's this super seriousness about it out there. But they like our candidates. And you get the sense that almost any of those candidates, could be a good nominee and could win.
Well, I understand that, and I know the polls show that Democrats, by and large, 75% are satisfied with their field, and only about 50-some% of Republicans are satisfied. So I take that as a general proposition. On the other hand, Hillary's clearly going down in the polls, while Obama and Edwards in the national polls aren't really going up much. They're kind of sitting there at around 20-something and teen-something for Edwards, and Hillary's going down. So are the Democratic voters beginning to lose some appreciation for their candidates?
Well, first of all, what Iowa and New Hampshire, as they almost always have done, what they do is they knock down front runners, and they particularly knock down front runners that have tried to create an air of inevitability about them. I mean, it's happened, over and over again throughout the years. And I think, the only thing that's inevitable about Hillary's campaign right now, in my view, is that she's going to be behind coming out of Iowa and have to try to catch up in New Hampshire. And the more you pour staff people, 100 more staff people into Iowa and buy twice as much television commercials, the more these people resent it in Iowa and New Hampshire. In Florida and New York, they don't even notice it.
One of the great things about long campaigns is that the personality and instincts of the candidate and his or her immediate entourage begin to show themselves, notwithstanding the best. You may know as a candidate you've got certain bad habits and you try to suppress them, but it's going to come out in the press of a campaign. And I think some of Hillary's responses to her, what I thought to be a fairly minor problem in a couple of debates back, the sort of hyper assertiveness against
on the
Obama,
driver's license for
on the driver's license,
yeah.
and then to go after Obama because when he was in kindergarten he said, "I want to go up to be president," for goodness sake. It seems so like, from my point of view, if you excuse me, so like the Clintons to sort of maniacally go negative when the person doesn't justify that amount of negativity. I wonder whether she's showing something that she wishes she wasn't.
I guess
showing.
we're not. Democracies in that respect are not, vibrant democracies are not that much different. And in the press, it's all this expectations game. I mean, look at Edwards. Edwards had the expectations about he was going to win Iowa about 6-7 months ago. He was ahead. Then he fell in the expectation game. The press has written him off. Now, I'll tell you what, he can finish second in Iowa, I think. I mean, and Obama has now surged to the lead in Iowa and come up in other places. And maybe, it's like that sports analogy. Don't go ahead of the other team too soon with time left on the clock,
Yeah.
I mean, it's true in American football. It's true in the football around the rest of the world. It's true in basketball. Don't score too soon. And maywith that's what's happening with Obama.
It's my sense that, if I were betting money, I would still bet on Hillary, but my second bet would be on Obama. It seems to me Edwards, who is so, I think, despised by Democrats here in Washington. Yeah. I mean, he's just not a beloved figure. He's not an admired figure. And I think there's some justification for it. Obama is obviously a superior kind of a man. I mean, whether he's going to run a good campaign, whether he's going to get elected president, you can't watch this guy and not think this is a fine man. I don't think you get that reaction for Edwards.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of Obama's had a great 2 weeks, as you know. You're a press guy. I mean, the Atlantic Monthly, the Frank Rich in the New York Times, who's widely read, really making the first case by a major columnist for Obama as the better general election candidate.
Yes.
The first major columnist to do that. And so, yeah, he's had a great run. But I'll tell you, the thing that struck me in Iowa, I couldn't find anybody in 2 visits. I did 12 house parties one day. I couldn't find anybody for whom Hillary was the second choice.
Well, of course, that's critical the way Iowa caucus
That's
works.
like death in these caucuses, because just for our viewers who may not know it, these are the caucuses are not like a regular election. People go to living rooms and school auditoriums, American Legion halls and kitchens, and they gather. And if you don't get, your candidate doesn't get 15% on that first go around, you go to your second choice. Yeah. And she doesn't have many. She's not many. I think Joe Biden and Chris Dodd are have more second choice votes than she does.
Yeah. Let me go back to your taking Edwards more seriously than I do.
Okay.
Because it's interesting. You look at the statistic over American history. Every American president but one has been a white male Protestant, and that one was Jack Kennedy, who was a white male Catholic. Now we've got Edwards, a white male Protestant, and you have 2 demographically different the candidates in Hillary and Obama. Is there any sense in which, while history is not the future, America's changed, our attitude towards race and gender has shifted dramatically to a more benignant and less malignant view. Nonetheless, there have got to be trace elements. Is there any in the Democratic Party that they still have question marks, and when it comes to actually voting in the general election for president, there might be some instinctive sense, let's go with a white Protestant male?
I'll tell you, a liberal Democrat, fairly well known, said to me not long ago, I love all of our candidates, he said, but to use a American baseball analogy, he said, it's the bottom of the 9th inning, the bases are loaded, we have no outs, we're the home team, all we need is a run. Why are we trying to hit a grand slam? Why are we trying to elect the first woman or the first black? You know, I don't necessarily share that view, but I think there is some of that underlying all this, and Edwards could benefit from it.
I mean, there's a long tradition in America that black candidates in white districts overpoll. That is, more people say they're going to vote for the black candidate than actually do. Now, that number's arguably been going down a little bit in the last decade, but we've seen it, I know in the Virginia elections over the last couple of decades, you see a 5-7 point gap between what people say they're going to do. There may also be some element of that for a woman, where you think the politically correct thing is not to be against the woman. And that's going to be the hard thing for Democratic pollsters to judge. Is there any overpolling going on?
I think that's right. Well, we'll see, and we'll see a little bit of that in the early results in Iowa,
yes, we will.
In Iowa and New Hampshire.
Absolutely.